You're listening to The Insider, the official podcast for the city of Murfreesboro. I'm Mike Browning. Middle Tennessee Electric is celebrating its 5-year anniversary on its merger with Murfreesboro Electric. And here to help us discuss that issue and the accomplishments of the merger are President and CEO Chris Jones and Mayor Shane McFarland. Good to have you both with us.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah, and happy anniversary.
Thank you. Don't forget, that anniversary is one that you don't want to forget, but especially your anniversary, you definitely can't forget that.
Amen to that. Yeah. Yes, indeed.
The annual report or update that MTE puts together, you just did that on the 5-year, but how did that notion begin? What was the process of determining that a report would be made?
So it wasn't an outworking of the regulatory or transaction process. It was just something that, and again, I appreciate the mayor and all the dialogues we've been able to have, and just we wanted to keep an open line of communication. And I thought a good way to, to update the mayor and the council in particular, and then by extension the city, would be to every year to just put some thoughts together. Here's some things that we've done since, and here's some of the value of the merger. And so that was just something we thought would be a good thing to do, and have been sharing that. Actually, we shared it the first 3 years, and then here on the 5th anniversary, so this is actually the 4th report. But just thought it would be a good thing to do. Simple as that.
The public probably needs to be reminded, you don't need to be reminded, that every year now, under this process, you write an annual check for around $17 million. That's a substantial amount, and the public needs to know that money is coming back to the city and the taxpayers.
That's right, and again, I congratulate the mayor and the city for the way they're using and seeking to use those proceeds. And from the standpoint, the report enumerates a number of accomplishments and things that we have done, benefits, if you will, of our former 2 great utilities becoming one even better utility. But the way I like to characterize this for someone who asks about it just at a general level as a citizen of Murfreesboro is that, this was about, fundamentally, these proceeds from a transaction going to the city for it to use however it chooses to. But at from a utility standpoint, with 2 utilities coming together, you actually get a better utility as a result of that process. So I'd like to just, in simple terms, talk about it in that way, because, again, this was about an opportunity. And again, Murfreesboro Electric existed for several years, and so did Middle Tennessee Electric. Middle Tennessee Electric was a citizen of Murfreesboro, if you will. The corporate headquarters was always in the city of Murfreesboro. So we had a number of potential synergies, and just making that happen has resulted in a utility that is still a corporate citizen of Murfreesboro, will be forever, that provides even better service than before, because again, it's about coming together, bringing 2 great teams together, all our technologies and capabilities together. So it stands to reason we should be better on the other side of that. But then, as a result of that transaction and that acquisition, the city gets the benefit of those proceeds to do with it what they choose to. And again, I'm just so honored that the city has chosen to do some really exciting things with those proceeds. And that will be the case for years to come. Shane.
Mayor, a lot of people thought it was going to be a good thing when it was being created. But after 5 years now, what do you think about the merger?
I think that people will go back and see it as one of the most pivotal and best decisions that the council has made. And you really have to go back. I was elected in 2014, and we started talking about this in 2016, and it was a really tough conversation. There was a lot of outside discussion taking place, and so we ended up having to table it and really stopped even talking about it. And then when I was elected my 2nd term, I won't forget, we gave it sort of the swearing in ceremony, and in the speech just said that we need to talk about this, and it put people on notice that we were going to talk about it again. So it was a long process, but ultimately Murfreesboro Electric was a donut. It was like the middle of a donut hole, or the center of a donut, and so we couldn't expand. through territorial agreements, all of the new growth that was going on in Murfreesboro was Middle Tennessee Electric was the one who was servicing that. So, with that, when your service area can't grow, so your revenue really can't grow, but yet your expenses are continuing to go up, your maintenance is going up. At the time, there was a discussion of building a $30 million corporate headquarters. So all of these things went into the decision to look at merging. And one of the things we were very cognizant about is, the utility, I think at the end of is it 15 years, is that right, Chris? 15-year payments. It'll be about $300 million that the city is going to get. But at the same time, we didn't want to put a financial burden on Middle Tennessee Electric where they would have to give us $300 million on the front end, and then that be a burden to the ratepayer. And so we structured a deal to where that money comes in. The city council actually, you don't see this many times, but the city council actually went to the state and said, look, we want to change our charter and we want you to restrict the funds that we're getting paid. So out of that $300+ million, we allocated money for, some roads, some parks, and then we put, really almost $250 million to the side to say we can't ever touch that. And the only way that can ever be touched is the city council would have to go back to the state, ask them to change our charter again, and then I think it even has to go to a referendum in the city to be able to change that. So 15 years from now, the resident's going to see $250 million plus that's going to continually grow funds, and that'll be a benefit to the taxpayer to not have to raise taxes because they have that amount that's there.
And when you say it can't be touched, what you mean is that the large amount, the principal is going to stay there, but the growth that it creates,
Correct.
You'll be able to pull from and use for city expenses.
It's one big, large retirement fund, and ultimately the person who ends up benefiting the most, the ratepayer ends up benefiting, and then the taxpayer ends up benefiting because we're able to use those funds as a revenue source and still keep that principal in place.
And the other beauty of it is that there are two committees. There's an investment committee of experts in finances, and then there's another committee with some expertise in nonprofits that recommends the funds to nonprofit agencies. So it's not like the city council's making that decision in the grassroots level. They ultimately make a decision, but there's some community support for that.
Yeah, one of the weaknesses that we had as a city, and you see this and you saw this at any point during our budget process, you have all these valuable community partners and nonprofits who are sitting out in the audience, and we're talking about who we're going to fund. And politically, that's really tough to pick winners and losers, and especially, say that you have a council member that may be affiliated with one of those organizations, but you really can't do anything with them because the council member's affiliated with them. So you want to be transparent about that. What we've done is we've moved, and we call them strategic partners. We've moved all those strategic partners over to where this citizen board handles those, and that's the group that manages it, and it takes politics completely out. Like, no council members calling this board saying, hey, we need to fund this group. I mean, it's all done by metrics. And the other part too is this group is able to look at outcomes. So instead of just stroking a check to an organization, this group also monitors to see what the outcome of the money that they're giving, because ultimately it's taxpayer dollars.
So obviously that's one of the big benefits. And Chris, in your report, there's a list of other benefits, and it's a long list. I mean, your report is lengthy, and then there are a lot of bullets, which it's amazing just how much has been accomplished. And we can only probably touch on some of those in this podcast, but one of them that is very visible to the audience here would be the celebration on July 4th
Sure.
that MTE sponsors.
Yeah. So that was in thinking about ways that we could quickly add value and engage in community. That was one that I focused on and talked with the mayor about it and the city staff, of course. And so what we wanted to do was be involved, and we thought a good way for us to be involved and also to provide economic development benefit would be to create a sponsorship for that event, and for us to be the title lead sponsor and to absorb as much of the kind of the hard cost of the event and the fireworks as we could. But yeah, I mean, it's something we're very proud to be part of, because it is a fantastic event that this city puts on, and thousands of people come and enjoy that, and we're able, not just to be a sponsor, but we're there on site to answer questions, provide information, to engage with the community here in Murfreesboro. So it has proven to be something that we've just relished to be a part of.
One thing we should talk about too is the whole issue of economic development, which you made some pledges for that. I don't know if some of that even occurred before the merger, but why is the electric utility or any utility so involved in economic development?
It's a good question, and that the answer to that question can vary from utility to utility and place to place. But for Middle Tennessee Electric as an electric co-op, we exist obviously to provide affordable, reliable power to those that we serve. But as a co-op, we're called to be more than that. We're called to engage in community, to make a difference, to make a constructive difference in the communities we serve. And to us, economic development is a fundamental piece of that. Now, of course, we get all of our power from TVA, and part of the TVA charter, why TVA exists, part of the reason is economic development also. So we, in concert with TVA, work toward opportunities for economic development. And this is something that the mayor and I talked a few times before, early on, about how important economic development was and how we can be an agent for assistance in that regard. So we're always working in that circle in some form or fashion. If a prospect is coming to Rutherford County, for example, or Murfreesboro, we're going to be working with the Chamber and TVA and the state and others about bringing answers to questions about power. But other tangible ways too, and here in particular with the city of Murfreesboro, we just talked about the 4th of July celebration, but we're doing a number of other things too. But something we wanted to do just to say, okay, we're going to make some pledges. We're going to do something a little extra as we get this partnership, this new partnership started. And so we offered, as a part of our annual outreach through this report, a $50,000 pledge every year toward something that the city wanted to do from an economic and community development standpoint. And just this year, the 5th year, we decided, in hearing from the city, that how important the Broad Street revitalization project was going to be, and we said, okay, let's we made these pledges. Let's write the city a check for $250,000 to make good on those pledges, and again to be a good, positive agent for community and economic development here in this city.
One of the things that has been discussed, Mayor, there was a little bit of confusion because there were two electric utilities prior to the merger, and now there's one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's much like Murfreesboro Water and Sewer and Consolidated Utility District. I mean, the resident, and this is what we talked about when the merger was taking place, I mean, the resident doesn't really care who their bill comes from. They care that they flip on their switch and the lights turn on. But like a great example, you could drive down Compton Road off of Thompson Lane and you'd have Murfreesboro Electric lines on one side of the street and Middle Tennessee Electric on the other side of the street. And there was a lot of confusion, and that duplication costs money. So there was a lot of confusion that really went through. And I'll say this, and I've said this publicly, this was a long process. I mean, this took us almost 5 or 6 years to even to accomplish and get everyone into a frame. Everyone, even in government too, it's like my 12-year-old, and we have younger kids. Everyone, sometimes that we turn into Montessors, that we don't want to let go of things. And I think there was that apprehension that merging two good companies together, that you're giving up something. And I think what Chris has shown, and Chris was instrumental in getting this done, it was a team, and it's a team now. And we talk about economic development, we talk about the financial aspect, but you can't also forget, like we've got a park that's being built right now on the west side of town. That was Middle Tennessee Electric's property, and the deal had already been done. And Craig Tyndall and I were sitting in his office, and I won't ever forget, I called Chris. I was like, hey, man, I got a crazy idea. And, we had 120 acres that was not really set up for a park. It was bordered by an interstate and 3 other roads. It's great for economic development. And then Middle Tennessee Electric had a spot that had 1 road in front of it and 2 neighborhoods behind it, Berkshire and the Cloister. And so we looked at that. We're like, okay, that site is perfect for a community park. This site's perfect for economic development. Our two groups got together. Everyone looked at it. They saw what the advantages would be to both parties, and that's where Veterans Park. So that's what good corporate citizens and good municipalities who work well together can accomplish.
So, Chris, I assume MTE agreed with that.
Oh, absolutely. And so from the standpoint, again, back to economic development, so that property that the mayor just referred to that now Middle Tennessee Electric owns, that, by the way, was identified as the #1 economic development site in Rutherford County, we are, if you will, marketing that site for economic development. We're working with the state of Tennessee, with TVA, and so we want to bring forward the best economic development opportunity we can for the city of Murfreesboro, Rutherford County, our service territory in general. And so that's what we're seeking to do, and we'll be as patient as we need to make sure that that's what we do.
When the merger occurred, it would be natural for a company to think in terms of customer service.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you do,
Sure.
essentially. So you wanted to implement as many things as you could, whether it be a website, a more friendly website, or connections, or new rate options. Share some of those.
Yeah. So, we're a service organization, and something that I try to be very cognizant of in, if you will, leading the organization and coaching our employees and talking to people who are interested in coming to work for Middle Tennessee Electric, is that if you want to be successful, you have to be a servant. And if we're going to be who we should view ourselves as servants. So that spirit of service, permeates the organization, or at least it should. That's what we intend to. So that's right. As we talked about coming together, and part of the mayor's point a while ago, technically this was an acquisition from a transactional standpoint, but we always viewed it philosophically and very intentionally as a merger, because we wanted this to be friendly in every respect, from the standpoint of the politics of the employees coming together, how we were bringing these two organizations together. Philosophically, it was a merger, and a big piece of that was translating that philosophy into how we serve our communities. And of course, we were bringing, as Middle Tennessee Electric, a whole new set of customers. We called them members of the co-op into our purview. So we started thinking about very quickly how we could transition in such a way to make it as easy on the new members as possible, but also to begin to build new capability that we had, but new capability that they could use for the long term. So it began with things like making the transition to the new bills easy and things like that. We made some technology platform changes, and that's a bunch of boring stuff that I'll leave to the side. Some of that's referenced in the report. But then we started introducing our app and technologies that we had because of our scale, that Murfreesboro Electric was looking to build one day, but just didn't have that capability as yet. So we began to leverage those technologies and make them available to the membership here in the city of Murfreesboro. So there's a host of those mentioned in the report, but the app in particular is one that I would highlight for those who are listening and watching this podcast, because it is just rich with information. I mean, it makes things easy in terms of you want to pay your bill or report an outage, and that's great, but you can use that tool to really dig into how you're using electricity. And we want people to use electricity as wisely as they can, to save as much money as they can. So that provides detailed information about how you're using your power on a 15-minute interval basis. So you can really dig into how you use your power. So I
use that
folks.
app myself,
Right.
and I love
Awesome.
it. It's very easy to navigate, and it's useful. I mean, you feel like you're in touch with what's going on.
Yeah.
That's a technology that maybe the public would use or interface with. What about some of the larger technologies that you've implemented?
Yeah, so I think one that I would point to that would be easy for people to understand and appreciate is our systems control operation. It is a 24/7, 365 nerve center of Middle Tennessee Electric. Again, a capability that we had that Murfreesboro Electric was ultimately looking to build one day, but didn't yet have. And so all of our technologies come together in that nerve center, that systems control. And I think Shane has seen it, and others have seen it. When people come, we love to highlight that benefit. But it allows for, again, all of our technologies to come together in that nerve center. We can dispatch crews, and so it has made our operations across the city of Murfreesboro. We were quickly able to fold all those capabilities into that systems control. So everything across the organization, including the city of Murfreesboro, runs through that systems control operation. So that's something in particular I would point to in terms of just being more efficient, better outage response, and all those pieces.
And Mayor, that was probably the thought that city leaders had when you initially went through this process, is that Murfreesboro Electric was a smaller utility and may not be able to leverage the technology and the expense of that technology as much as the merger would allow.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chris will tell you this. The number one focus and the number one driving factor when we were talking about merger is how do we serve our residents better than what we're doing right now. I mean, we knew that the money and financial aspect would take care of itself, and we knew with who we were talking with that Chris and his team would be fair, that our team, that we would be fair, but the overriding goal was how do we make sure that service does not go down, that we make sure that service actually improves. And that was a huge factor because we were so limited in our customer base on where we could grow that, small organizations at the time, like Murfreesboro Electric, Chris is being very nice. We didn't have, nor could we really afford to put in the technology that a larger organization like Middle Tennessee Electric could do and already had done. A great example, Medical Center Parkway, one of our smart corridors, that was a project that we all worked on. So I think our goal, yes, it's great that the financial aspect is there, but I don't think that there's a citizen in Murfreesboro who can say that their service has gotten worse with this merger. I think every person could say it's gotten better. And part of that is with the valuable MED employees that were already working, that, all the linemen, all of the support team, they all came over. And that was one of the things that was extremely important that we all worked through, is to make sure that this was also not a benefit for our residents, but this was a benefit for the employees that went over. So we've had a lot of discussion on the MED retirement, that we wanted to make sure to protect all the people who were on that retirement, their salaries, all of those things. So it's been a benefit, I believe. I mean, I see linemen and I see people all the time that will come up and say, hey, I know we gave some grief when this whole thing first started, but this has been better for our families.
And Chris, I should let you speak to that. You did inherit employees from MED, and sometimes that can add synergy because you bring people from another organization who have different ideas or different ways. So how has that worked out?
Yeah, absolutely. So number one, thank you to all those team members. I'm very proud of all of them, and it was very important to me in this process that the merger process, that we take care of those employees, and I feel like we've lived up to our word on that, and I'm thankful for that. But just what they have brought to the table, ideas, suggestions, but just their attitude of service. It's been 5 years now, so I'm so thankful for the way they have they've stepped up, and they've continued to serve their community. So fundamentally important piece of this equation was that, no question about it. And again, back to these ideas of how synergies have worked. Something I want to make sure that I say carefully here too is that of course the report focuses on the benefits of the city, but the benefits of this merger have been mutual. I mean, Middle Tennessee Electric as an organization, again, two utilities coming together to make a better one, we have benefited as a whole organization, as a utility, from this merger. I mean, we have greater economies of scale now across the organization. We have a whole service territory. The mayor referenced a while ago that donut hole. So now we are not making, as two organizations, we were making investments for the same purposes 10 years ago, before this merger. We were investing in two separate sets of technology. We were building lines on the same sides of the street. That donut hole, especially around that area, we were building a substation across the street from Murfreesboro Electric, who was building a substation. So those kinds of things, we're doing everything for one utility
rather
now.
than
So
duplication.
So we're saving, we're being more efficient, but we have greater economies of scale as a utility. And I feel like we are the size of utility we are and the service territory we have, that we're very much in the sweet spot of being able to perform and deliver at a high level. I think, some utilities out there are too big and some of them are too small. And I say that generally because they just each present their certain set of challenges. I think we are very much in a sweet spot with that. And we need to deliver and be the best utility in the country for this community. And that's what we seek to do. So a way we measure ourselves is through the J.D. Power Customer Satisfaction Survey. And right now we are in the top 10% across the country, and have been for the last 3 years, top 10% across the country of all utilities in terms of customer member satisfaction. And so our goal is to be in the top 5%, and we're knocking on that door. And again, we want to continue to be better for the community we serve.
That's remarkable. One thing I wanted to kind of wrap up here with is some of the technology that you hear a lot about, whether it be solar, wind, and I know you're connected to TVA.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think that maybe some of those new technologies are going away under a new administration, but you're still really involved in solar and certain types of generation and storage that maybe we should address.
Okay, sure. We want to bring. Well, I'll say this: we need as much power generation as we can right now across the country. So we are in a bit of an industry transition with regard to electric generation. Necessarily we're seeing coal sunset. We need to leverage the existing capabilities for all that they're worth, but we're moving away from that and decarbonizing as we can. But we need all the resources at the table. Natural gas, obviously TVA has a big hydro fleet, dams that are just incredible to see. By the way, if you ever have a chance to tour a TVA dam, you should do it. Fantastic to see. But then nuclear power, which is a whole other subject. Maybe I need to come and we do a show on nuclear power. That's interesting as well. But yeah, renewable generation, solar in particular for the state of Tennessee. So we are, as Middle Tennessee Electric, investing in solar energy because we can do it from a return on investment perspective in a way that benefits directly our membership. So TVA affords us the ability to produce 5% of our power on our own. We have an all requirements contract with TVA, but there's a flexibility provision that allows us to produce 5% of our electricity. So we're making that solar generation. So we're building solar installations right now. One in Christiana just went live a couple of months ago with 3.5 megawatts of power that's benefiting our membership. But we're also investing in battery storage. And right now you can drive by the Rockville substation and see a Tesla battery pack there at the Rockville substation. That's a 1 megawatt battery that we can discharge during times like 3 or 4 p.m. today when it's going to be 150 degrees or whatever. It's going to be so hot that we can discharge that will save our members money because we're shaving consumption off of our power demand that TVA charges us for. And we're looking to invest a lot more into battery storage as a way to give us more flexibility. So we are looking, again, to what Shane mentioned a while ago, we want to be an innovative utility as well. We want to deliver affordable, reliable power, but part of that I think has to be innovation in the way that we serve. And so we're seeking to be innovative. So we're looking at the latest technologies. We're building a smart grid. We're building a smart grid for this community. It's something that Chattanooga EPB has done a good job at, and we share notes with Chattanooga a lot, but we're building a smart grid here for the city of Murfreesboro. So we want to have the most, I'm not saying this just to say it, I mean it, the most advanced electric grid that exists in the world we want right here for Murfreesboro and for our service territory. So we have to be innovative to meet those kinds of expectations we have for ourselves.
Well, I want to thank you both for being our guest on The Insider.
All right, thanks,
Appreciate
Mike.
it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We've been highlighting some of the benefits and accomplishments achieved on the 5-year anniversary of the MTE merger with MED. The podcast originated from City Hall. Thanks for listening to The Insider on our multiple platforms and right here on YouTube. Our producer is Michael Nevels. For more information on the city of Murfreesboro, it's murfreesborotn.gov. I'm Mike Browning. Thanks for joining us.